In May 2011, farmers across eastern China woke to a field full of shattered watermelons, split open overnight, as if something inside had detonated. Investigators later traced the damage to a growth chemical some farmers had overused during heavy rain. That single event revealed something most people never consider. This fruit carries a stranger, darker past than anything else on your kitchen counter. Its wild ancestor was once too bitter and toxic for humans to eat safely. Number 14 exposes exactly how deadly that ancestor really was. The ninth spot uncovers a chapter tied to painful racial history that companies spent decades trying to erase. Type your home state below, because where you live changes which version of this story you actually inherited. Nothing about this fruit stayed simple for very long. Let's count down 20 dangerous truths hiding in something everyone assumes is harmless. Number 20. The poison in the desert. Deep in the Kalahari region of southern Africa, the wild ancestor of every watermelon on Earth still grows today, small and pale green, almost identical on the outside to the fruit sold in grocery stores. Bite into it, though, and the danger becomes obvious immediately. Wild watermelon flesh is intensely bitter, packed with compounds called cucurbitacins, chemicals so harsh they can cause vomiting, cramping, and severe digestive distress in humans. For thousands of years before farmers learned to breathe that bitterness out, this fruit was something desert communities approached with real caution, not casual snacking. Elders reportedly taught children to test a tiny piece from the outer flesh first, waiting to see if their mouth burned before trusting the rest, a survival ritual passed down purely by word of mouth. Number 19. The tomb that held the proof. Archaeologists working in ancient Egyptian burial sites have recovered watermelon seeds placed deliberately inside tombs, including sites connected to the era of Tutankhamun. Historians believe the fruit was buried as sustenance for the journey into the afterlife, chosen specifically because it could survive the desert heat far longer than water itself. That single detail explains why early travelers depended on it so heavily. A cracked, spoiled watermelon in the middle of a desert crossing wasn't an inconvenience. It could mean the difference between reaching the next well and not surviving the journey at all. Number 18. The deadly look-alike. Even today, a close cousin of the watermelon called Citrullus colocynthus, known as the bitter apple, grows wild across parts of Africa and the Middle East, and it looks disturbingly similar to a small watermelon. The problem is that this relative remains genuinely toxic to humans in any meaningful quantity, capable of causing severe intestinal bleeding and organ stress. Documented poisoning cases still occur when people mistake it for its edible relative, a mistake that has occasionally sent grown adults to the hospital within hours of a single bite. Number 17. Rations for an army that couldn't trust them. During multiple wars across history, soldiers relied on watermelon as an emergency water source when supply lines failed, since a single fruit could hold nearly a liter of drinkable liquid. But melons carried on long marches, exposed to heat and insects, spoiled fast. Military medical records from several conflicts describe outbreaks of dysentery traced directly back to contaminated fruit eaten in desperation. Entire units reportedly went from marching to bedridden within a single day after sharing melons that looked perfectly fine on the outside. The same object that could save a dehydrated soldier's life could just as easily end it. Here is the part nobody tells you. Every one of those dangers came from nature itself, encoded directly into the plant's biology. But the next chapter of this story shows something far more unsettling. How humans took a fruit that nature had already made dangerous and found brand new ways to make it dangerous all over again. Number 16. The breeding project that changed everything. Over roughly 4,000 years, farmers across Africa and later the Mediterranean world selectively replanted the sweetest, least bitter seeds generation after generation, slowly breeding the toxic cucurbitacins down to safe, negligible levels. This wasn't a quick fix. It took millennia of trial and error, entire communities gambling their harvest on fruit that might still carry enough bitterness to make someone sick. The safe, red-fleshed watermelon on your table today is the end result of one of the longest deliberate detox projects in agricultural history. Breeding the danger out took thousands of years to finish. What happened next took only a few generations to build back up, in ways nobody expected. Number 15. Survival gardens in bondage. When watermelon reached the American South through the transatlantic slave trade and colonial trade routes, enslaved Africans and African Americans cultivated it in small personal garden plots, since it was hardy, required little tending, and provided rare nutrition and hydration during brutal field labor. For many enslaved families, it represented one of the only crops they were permitted to grow, sell, and profit from themselves, a rare sliver of independence carved out of impossibly harsh conditions. Money earned from a single harvest could sometimes mean the difference between a family staying together or being separated at auction. That fact would later be twisted into something cruel, and the ninth spot on this list explains exactly how. Number 14. How deadly the wild ancestor really was. Returning to that original toxic strain from the Kalahari, researchers studying cucurbitacin poisoning have recorded cases where concentrated exposure caused severe abdominal pain, dangerously low blood pressure, and in extreme, untreated cases, life-threatening complications. This wasn't a mild stomachache. Communities that relied on wild melons had to develop careful taste testing traditions passed down through generations, because getting it wrong could genuinely kill a person, especially a child or someone already weakened by dehydration. Number 13. The mold nobody sees coming. Watermelons stored improperly in humid conditions can develop fungal growth beneath a rind that looks completely normal from the outside. Certain molds produce mycotoxins, compounds capable of damaging the liver and immune system with repeated exposure. Commercial growers now follow strict storage and inspection protocols specifically because early mold growth on a watermelon is almost impossible to detect without cutting the fruit open, by which point contamination may have already spread through the flesh. A melon can look flawless on a store shelf and still be quietly rotting from the inside, hidden completely by a thick, uniform rind built by nature to protect exactly this kind of damage from being seen. Number 12. The outbreaks that made headlines. Multiple confirmed foodborne illness outbreaks in the United States have been traced back to contaminated cut watermelon, including cases of salmonella and listeria linked to unsanitary processing facilities. Because watermelon is often pre-cut and sold in plastic containers, bacteria introduced during processing can multiply rapidly at room temperature. Public health investigators have repeatedly warned that this convenience-driven format carries meaningfully higher contamination risk than a whole, unsliced fruit. Number 11. The fruit traffickers chose on purpose. Because a watermelon's thick rind and dense interior naturally muffle scent and shape, drug traffickers have repeatedly hollowed melons out to smuggle narcotics across international borders, cases recorded by customs agencies in multiple countries over the years. Border agents now specifically train to recognize the subtle signs of a resealed watermelon, from suspicious weight differences to faint seams along the rind that catch light differently than an untouched fruit. One inspector interviewed after a major seizure described the hollowed melons as nearly perfect disguises, heavy enough, cold enough, and ordinary enough to pass a glance from almost anyone. An object built by nature to protect its own insides had become something criminals learned to exploit for exactly the same reason. Biology, spoilage, and crime explain every danger so far. What comes next shows how the fruit itself became a weapon, used deliberately by people against other people. Number 10. The danger sitting in a child's hand. Pediatric emergency rooms report a steady stream of choking incidents tied directly to watermelon, usually involving large chunks swallowed too quickly or seeds lodged in a young airway. Unlike foods parents instinctively treat with caution, watermelon feels completely safe, soft, and harmless, which is exactly why supervision around small children eating it often relaxes at the worst possible moment. Pediatricians now specifically recommend cutting the fruit into small cubes rather than handing children large wedges, a simple habit that prevention studies link directly to fewer emergency room visits. Number 9. The weapon made from a symbol of survival. After the Civil War, newly freed Black Americans began growing and selling watermelon independently for the first time, turning it into a genuine symbol of self-sufficiency and economic freedom. White supremacist propaganda responded directly and deliberately, flooding postcards, advertisements, and minstrel imagery with grotesque caricatures designed to mock Black Americans through association with the fruit. That imagery didn't fade quickly. It shaped consumer behavior and business reputations for generations. making something as simple as selling watermelon at a roadside stand feel dangerous for black vendors who risked being reduced to a racist stereotype rather than seen as a business owner. Historians studying this period describe it as one of the clearest examples of an ordinary food being weaponized into a tool of dehumanization, a wound the fruit itself never asked to carry. One chapter changed how an entire community's relationship with this fruit had to be rebuilt from nothing, generation after generation. Number 8. The night melons exploded. Return to that opening scene in eastern China. Investigators determined that farmers, racing to get a competitive edge during a wet growing season, had applied chlorpheniramine, a plant growth chemical, at levels far beyond safe agricultural guidelines.
Look at the
Combined
radial
with
split
unusually
here.
heavy
The
rainfall,
flesh is
the
completely
fruit
exposed.
expanded internally
Half the field
faster
looks
than
like
its
this. The
rind could
sudden heat
stretch,
caused it.
causing widespread splitting across dozens of farms in a single week. Some farmers reported losing nearly half their crop in a single night, entire rows reduced to pulp scattered across the mud by morning. The financial damage devastated entire local harvests, and the incident triggered stricter national regulation on agricultural growth chemicals almost immediately afterward. Number 7. The sugar spike doctors warn about. Watermelon carries a notably high glycemic index despite its high water content, meaning it can cause blood sugar to rise sharply in a short window of time. For people managing diabetes without careful portion awareness, a large serving eaten quickly has been documented to trigger dangerous glucose spikes, occasionally severe enough to require medical intervention. The truth is, a fruit marketed almost universally as a healthy summer snack carries a real risk that most nutrition labels never make obvious. Number 6. The countertop danger almost nobody considers. Once cut open, watermelon becomes one of the fastest foods to develop dangerous bacterial growth at room temperature, thanks to its high moisture and sugar content creating close to perfect conditions for pathogens to multiply. Food safety researchers recommend refrigerating cut watermelon within 2 hours, yet most households leave a sliced melon out on a counter through an entire afternoon gathering, unaware that the clock on contamination started the moment the knife went in. By the time dessert rolls around at a summer barbecue, the same fruit that looked perfectly fresh at noon may already be carrying bacteria levels well past what any food safety guideline considers acceptable. Every danger on this list, from ancient poison to modern bacteria, eventually circles back to the same uncomfortable truth. This fruit has never actually been the simple, harmless snack its reputation suggests. Number 5. The allergy nobody expects. People with ragweed pollen allergies frequently experience a lesser-known condition called oral allergy syndrome when eating watermelon, causing itching or mild swelling in the mouth and throat within minutes. It rarely becomes severe, but allergists confirm that in a small number of confirmed cases, symptoms escalated seriously enough to require emergency treatment, a reaction few people would ever expect from something this sweet. Number 4. What's hiding in the rind? Because watermelon rinds absorb whatever pesticide residue clings to their surface during growth and transport, food safety researchers advise thoroughly washing the exterior before cutting, since a contaminated blade can drag residue directly into the flesh underneath. This single overlooked step remains one of the simplest, least followed safety habits connected to this fruit, skipped by most home cooks who assume a thick rind means nothing on the surface could possibly matter once the fruit is sliced open. Number 3. The overconsumption danger. In rare but verified cases, people attempting extreme watermelon-based diets or eating unusually large quantities in a short period have developed a dangerous condition called water intoxication, where sodium levels in the blood drop to unsafe levels. The body genuinely can consume too much of something mishydrating, a fact most dieters chasing a trend never learn until symptoms appear. Number 2. The poison still used today. That toxic wild relative from earlier, the bitter apple, is still used in some traditional folk medicine practices as a purgative, despite documented cases of severe poisoning and even death from improper dosing. Medical journals continue publishing case studies warning against its use, proof that the ancient danger buried in this fruit's family tree never fully disappeared, even after thousands of years spent trying to breed it out of existence entirely. Number 1. The fruit that refuses to be simple. From a bitter desert survival food, to a symbol of freedom turned into a racist weapon, to a modern crop capable of exploding under the wrong chemical conditions, Watermelon carries more genuine history and hidden danger inside its rind than almost anything else sold at a grocery store. Every single item on this countdown started the same way, as something ordinary that nobody thought twice about, until the history underneath finally surfaced. That was the point of this entire list. The things we treat as the most harmless are often carrying the deepest, most complicated stories, if anyone ever bothers to look past the surface. Every single item on this list traces back to the same idea. The most ordinary object in your kitchen is almost never as simple as it looks. A fruit bred over 4,000 years to remove its own poison still managed to carry danger forward in new forms, decade after decade, right up to today. That raises an uncomfortable question about everything else sitting in your fridge right now, the foods you've never once questioned, the labels you've never once read closely. Which one do you think is hiding a history like this? Type your guess below before you scroll away. Then watch the video appearing on your screen right now, because it uncovers a fruit with a poisoning history even more shocking than this one.